Don't worry, I'm not running out of fragrances to review, it's just been one whole year on this channel. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Off, and I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances, and this is a practical review of Amouage Enclave. These reviews are for fragrances that I have a lot of experience with, multiple wears in many situations, and are meant to give you the general idea of what it feels to wear the fragrance. As per usual, I do a lot of research before buying fragrances, but I don't really like to go into details about notes in a course, as I don't think that they help the end user. I'd rather talk about the wear experience as a whole. I said review because I've covered this fragrance once before on this channel. 1 year ago exactly, to be precise, my first ever fragrance review on YouTube. I can barely believe it's been already a year of this, a year of bringing you fragrance content. It's funny how life goes because I've been always a massive fan of YouTube. I've been always an avid content consumer, and not just fragrances. Fragrances is actually relatively recent. I've been diving from topic to topic, various forms of content in the past, obsession to obsession. Basically, as far as YouTube was alive, as far as I can remember doing it. For the better part of the last 20 years, I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel. Initially, it was about general photography technique because that is what I was teaching. By the way, I still teach photography. But I guess I waited too long, competition started growing, a lot of cool channels started arising around me, really discouraging me to start. Then I decided to focus on my newfound passion, which was actually landscape photography. Once again though, my perfectionism was holding me back. I never really started. Channels around me started catching on to the idea, bringing awesome content, just discouraging me to start. So I changed my mind once more. I decided to dive deeper into film photography with new concepts and ideas for a cool YouTube channel. But to no surprise, I waited too long, competition started growing, competition became really fierce, and I got discouraged. That was the end of my YouTube photography endeavor, which in all effect never even started. I then took a couple years break because I was moving from Italy to Switzerland. Once I got to Switzerland, I got really into cycling, and I had this great idea of doing a YouTube channel about the adventure side of cycling, about exploring and about just traveling. Super cool. I still think it's a really cool idea, but surprise, my perfectionist attitude was right around the corner, holding me back, not even allowing me to start a channel. And throughout the years, I made up a lot of excuses. I kept telling myself that it wasn't the right time, that I needed to be more focused, more inspired, more stable. The reality is that I've been in a long transition throughout my life, and I was never in a position of stability. And if I kept waiting for something to happen, I would wait for basically ever. So last year, in the depth of my fragrance obsession, I decided enough was enough. And I decided to follow the mantra, done is better than perfect. And I put out my first video about Amouage Enclave. This is a fragrance that really stuck to me, and I don't know, for some reason, I really felt compelled to talk about it. That video has not aged well. It's very rough. It's basically one take, surprisingly. I remember my thought process distinctly. In order to make my YouTube endeavor sustainable, it had to be as easy as possible. And counterproductively, I decided that I had to make everything one take just because it would limit editing. Because initially, I just wanted to edit everything on my phone. That was a terrible idea because I had to repeat stuff over and over again, making the filming process a complete nightmare. I then decided to cave in, use my laptop, use my computer just to edit videos, and it was way easier. But as incredible as it sounds, here I am 1 year later. I've never skipped an upload. I've always stuck to my schedule, but all this would have never been possible without your support, without your appreciation, without your interactions with likes and comments, just without your presence on this channel. I really enjoy talking to you guys. I really like talking to you guys about the stuff that I like. I really like sharing my experiences, and I just like the sort of feedback that you give me in the comments. Speaking about this, recently I received a comment asking me if I found responding to all of the comments, which I always do, very taxing, very boring, and very fatiguing. And to that I have to say, not really. It's obviously time consuming, but I really like doing it. I really like sharing opinions. I really like responding to you guys and just sharing the fragrance experience overall. It's awesome. And to that, I have to say that I'm actively thinking about even more interactive formats that we can share together, maybe a live, maybe, I don't know, some sort of a format where you guys can really put your thoughts in, and I can showcase your thoughts, and I can showcase your stories and overall experiences. All this intro aside, you might be asking yourself, why is he putting out a review for a fragrance that he's already covered? To that, I have to say that I've been thinking about this for quite some time. Not only because I wanted to honor my first video on YouTube, my first review for a fragrance, which is Amouage Enclave, but also because that video is old. It's bad, it's slow, it doesn't really cover many details, but mostly because my opinions on this fragrance has actually really changed. And if you guys have appreciate this video, this sort of a revisiting of a fragrance. I might even considering extending it to other fragrances in my collection. Obviously, if you know me, my collection is always transitioning, so a lot of the stuff that I started with is not there anymore. But I do have some staples that have stayed there, specifically for the house of Amouage. Speaking of, as you may know, I'm a huge Amouage fan. I collect Amouage. I have a lot of Amouage fragrances, and this one here has been a staple in my collection since I acquired it about a year and a half ago. I first smelled this fragrance from a sample. I think I got that sample, the official Amouage sample, with my order of maybe Beach Hut Man. I ordered that from the official Amouage website because I was fixated on having bottles with the latest font. My OCD was very, very strong, already for the brand of Amouage back then. And although fully committed to the brand of Amouage, when I first smelled that sample of Enclave, I was completely blown away. Not only the fragrance smelled super unique in general, but it also smelled very different from all of the other Amouage fragrances that I had or that I had sampled. The incredibly unique, warm and fresh dichotomy that this fragrance presents left me puzzled, but also very, very excited. This is a masterpiece by Julieta Skinet, and I really applaud Amouage for bringing something so unique, so different, and so modern to the market. I seem to remember that Enclave is part of the Odyssey collection, first announced maybe in 2021 or 2022. Other fragrances I think that were released alongside of this are Meander, Ashore, maybe Material. Not really certain. What I am certain about is that this is part of the new Amouage under the new creative direction of Renaud Salmon, which is very, very different from the one from Christopher Chong. This is a little bit controversial. A lot of people say that Amouage basically died with the departure of Christopher Chong. I don't necessarily agree. Obviously, there's a massive difference in style and approach, but I don't necessarily think that Amouage has lost their way. They're clearly wanting to appeal to a more modern, youthful market. But fragrances like this, they still retain a lot of creativity, a lot of edge, a lot of uniqueness. This basically smells like nothing else on the market. It's super fresh, very, very wearable, yet incredibly edgy and special. I really applaud Julieta Skinet and Amouage for this amazing creation. As part of the Odyssey collection, Enclave is supposed to be representing a section of the Omani territory. This one here specifically refers to a piece of the Omani coast where sheer, warm cliffs basically dive into the deep blue ocean. As I said, this is a beautiful depiction of contrast, a beautiful dichotomy of temperatures, colors, and textures, and it perfectly tells that story. This wears so incredibly unique. It really balances the warmth from the dry rock with the sweetness and the freshness and the refreshing aspect of the sea water. It's absolutely amazing. It's so unique wearing. Till this day, I've sampled a lot of stuff. I've worn so many things. Nothing else wears like this. As I said before, since I reviewed it, my opinion of this fragrance has kind of changed. I wouldn't necessarily say changed, maybe evolved, because it hasn't changed for better or for worse. It stayed the same. I still really like it. But I got a lot more detail, a lot more information to share with you, and just my perception of the fragrance has a little bit shifted. I thought this was mainly an amber fragrance. Now I think it's mainly a fresh incense fragrance. Is quite a different take, but we're going to talk about the scent profile and wear experience after we cover the presentation. When it comes to Amouage products, I always say the same thing. Presentation wise, the house is pretty much top tier. You always feel that you're getting what you're paying for. Enclave is one of the more beautiful bottles in the collection. There's something about this incredibly rich, deep, semi-transparent turquoise glass, which really recalls the freshness of the fragrance. I also really like the contrast with the gray. No other Amouage fragrance, to my knowledge, has a gray cap and really stands out within the bottles on the shelf. I really do like the classic, iconic shape of the Amouage bottles from the men line. I just wish they would bring out a little bit more satin bottles. I'm just that much of a fan of the finish. The cap for Enclave is your usual Amouage cap. It's beautiful, it's weighted, it's magnetic. This one here is lacquered in this really interesting gray finish. It has a green gemstone. Every time I put it back in the cap, and this is not unique to Enclave, but it's for all Amouage bottles, it's super satisfying. There's a beautiful self-orienting feature. If you didn't know, the shape of the cap for Amouage bottles from the men line is basically representing the handle of the Omani dagger. When it comes to the sprayers and atomizer assemblies, Amouage bottles are just okay. They're not too great. I used to praise them a lot in the past because a lot of their fragrances are very, very high oil concentrations. But I've used so many good sprayers throughout my testing that this is not necessarily too impressive anymore. Let's give it a couple sprays. It works well. It does the job. I'm not too complaining, but hey, it could be a lot better. By the way, I've been wearing this as my scent of the day, as I usually do when I review fragrances. This is absolutely beautiful. It's so relaxing. It's very, very likable, yet not necessarily mass appealing because it does smell different. It smells unique. This could be a killer signature scent fragrance. It's very good for 4-season wear. It perfectly combines freshness for the heat and depth for the winter. It's one of the most beautifully balanced Amouage fragrances out there. This, as I said, would make for a killer signature scent fragrance. Going back to the presentation, down to the bottle, as I said, I absolutely love this color. I really like the bottle design. The glass is very transparent, very pristine. You can barely see any seams. It does indeed feel like a luxurious product. Speaking of, the price for Amouage products is quite high. These are not cheap products. They retail for about $350 for 100 ml. That being said, especially at discounted prices, I do feel that Amouage products feature pretty good bang for buck. They smell high-end, they smell luxurious, they smell high quality, and the performance on most Amouage fragrances is really, really good, and they last a long time. So 100 ml will go a very, very long way. But enough with the presentation, time to talk about the scent profile and wear experience for Amouage Enclave. What does this actually smell like? The quickest and simplest way to describe this is that this is a spicy incense fragrance with a very fresh minty top and a very warm ambery base. This, though, is not necessarily going in depth because the wear experience for Amouage Enclave is incredibly unique. As I said, it features this beautiful dichotomy with freshness and warmth, which really catches you off guard. It's incredibly surprising, especially when you first spray it on. You're immediately hit with this beautiful mint note. The mint in here is not realistic. It's very artificial smelling. It smells like mint from toothpaste. It smells like spearmint. It smells like chewing gum mint. But it's not necessarily artificial smelling in a synthetic way. It doesn't smell cheap. It smells very high quality. The interesting thing about this mint note is that it's very well connected to the warm ambery base of the fragrance, which lies diagonally opposite to this mint note. Both in color, both in texture, both in feel. It's just very, very strange the way these two opposites are incredibly well connected. The ambery base not only gives the fragrance a lot of warmth on its own, but is also there to reinforce and give the mintiness a lot of body. It makes it incredibly diffusive and pulsating. The mint, on the other hand, is there to give the fragrance a lot of freshness, but it also beautifully translates down to the amber, giving it a lot of dryness and a lot of powderiness. They beautifully complement each other so incredibly well. Before, I talked about the mint being almost pulsating due to the amber, but in reality, I think that the fragrance as a whole is very much pulsating and changing. This constantly keeps bouncing back and forth, up and down between the fresh notes of the mint and the rumbling base of the amber. It's a very exciting and engaging wear, and sometimes you're picking up more freshness, sometimes you're picking up more warmth. It's super unique, and this beautiful dichotomy, as I said before, is what characterizes the scent and what makes it so incredibly wearable in pretty much any situation and in any season. When sniffing the scent, especially when diffused in the air, you probably would tend to think that it would lie in the mid-tone of the tone range. The reality is that the mintiness adds a lot of high-pitched zing, and the amberiness adds a lot of drony rumble. The thing that's curious about this is that basically this bouncing up and down averages to the mid-tone. As I said, it comes across as incredibly wearable in pretty much every situation. All considered, this is a fairly linear scent with not much transition or evolution top to bottom. What tends to happen is that this perception ping pong between the top freshness and the bottom warmth tends to slow down. And as the scent dries down, this bouncing up and down between the top and the bottom just keeps slowing down, ultimately landing in the middle until the fragrance is completely absorbed by the skin and slowly fades away and disappears. Before, I referred to this as a spicy incense fragrance with a fresh top and a warm bottom. So where's the spice? Where's the incense? Basically, these two components lie in the mid-tone, perfectly connecting the mint and the amber. And when the fragrance oscillates, it always goes through this incense, ultimately landing on it. The incense in here is very wispy, it's very fresh, it's very effervescent due to the spicy cardamom. It's so beautiful. I also said that when smelled in the air in a very diffused manner, this comes across as mint-toad centric because the top freshness and the warm base, they mix together with this incense in the air, coming across as a unified wave of smell. And the interesting thing is that when I ask people about this fragrance, almost no one picks up on the mintiness or the amber. They mainly smell this abstract mid-tone centric smell. Super unique, very, very cool. It's so mysterious. Well done, Amouage, for creating such a unique wear experience. Nothing else in my collection smells even remotely similar. But as much as how unique the scent profile is and how long I could talk about the wear experience, it's time to talk about some practicalities. Starting off with performance. Performance for Amouage products is not something you really have to ever worry about. Longevity for Enclave is absolutely phenomenal. You get 8 to 10 hours of wear. It's incredibly tenacious, incredibly persistent, but not in a fatiguing way. It starts drying down, it starts settling down about after hour, maybe 6, and it becomes a skin scent. Still very noticeable, but it's beautifully tailored and it's never cloying, never too much. I really enjoy every time I put this on. Projection and sillage for Enclave are very, very good, especially upon initially spraying. This, as I said, is a very engaging fragrance. It constantly changes, pretty much preventing anosmia. You're smelling fresh, then warmth, then fresh, then warmth, always keeping you on edge. Very, very beautiful. Once the scent settles down, it's still very easy to pick up even after full days of work. I catch myself getting whiffs of freshness and warmth, and eventually it dries down to this beautiful, powdery, very delicate, very light skin scent. When it comes to actual versatility in use cases, Enclave fares extremely well despite its fairly unique scent profile. Again, it's likable but not necessarily mass appealing. The extreme versatility of this scent comes from the fact that it wears so well. It wears so light yet deep. It's perfectly suited to pretty much any sort of environment. I've worn this to the gym multiple times, not offensive at all. It's still very fresh, very invigorating, yet relaxing. To work, it's been a blast. No one complained. Again, very refreshing, very invigorating, never cloying, never heavy, pretty much in every season. Last summer, I wore this a ton at the office and it worked extremely well. Obviously, summers are different for everyone, but given how unique this wears, it's very clean, very dry, almost to a powdered degree, would make it excellent for offices, especially when climate controlled. When it comes to wearing this day to night, casual to elegant, once again, Enclave shows its incredible versatility. I'm not really sure why, but there's something about this scent profile which is so unique, so incredibly wearable in all situations. There's not one situation that I can think of where this would be obnoxious, off-putting, and just not suited. It's really, really remarkable. Kudos again to Juliette Esquinet and Amouage for this. The exceptional versatility and usability of Enclave really extends to the demographics. Not only this lands incredibly unisex just because of how abstract it is, but also age-wise. It's so fresh, it's so invigorating, so fun and modern that anyone can pretty much wear it from late teens down to your wheelchair. It's that versatile, it's that wearable. All this functionality comes at a cost. The cost is paid in the narrative and imagery department. Comparatively to other Amouage fragrances, Enclave doesn't really transport me anywhere, doesn't really tell me any sort of story. Yes, there's that beautiful image of these warm cliffs touching the fresh ocean, but if it were for the brief, the marketing, the beautiful box and presentation, I doubt that I would be getting that image in my mind. Again, it's not a fault of the fragrance. You really can't balance functionality and artistry. It's okay. This is an incredibly wearable fragrance. It's a very perfumey perfume in that aspect, still very unique smelling, but overall, it's a little bit thin imagery and narration wise, and that's absolutely okay. Okay, we're at the part of the video where I give you some options for my reviewed fragrance. In the case of Enclave, I really wanted to go for year-round wearable fragrances that still offer quite a unique experience, maybe a nice interesting dichotomy between warmth and cold. The first fragrance that I want to showcase is Messe de Minuit by ETRO. This is such a unique incense in my collection because it offers this very unexpected, very fresh, very zingy, yet very sweet citrus opening, citrus top at that. It's a very unexpected thing, especially when talking about incense, especially when taking into account the name, Messe de Minuit, which means midnight mass. You would be expecting a very churchy, very smoky, very dense incense, but the addition of the citruses here make it very bright, very fun. It makes it very happy, and happy and churchy don't really go well together. Ultimately, I feel that my perception for this comes across as some sort of a town fair. There's a lot of like street food, there's a lot of kids, there's a lot of families, there's just a very beautiful environment. This comes across as festive. Festive in a very small town traditional sort of way. I get this image in my head of this street full of people, church in the background, bells ringing, there's a sweet aroma in the air, maybe cotton candy, everyone is chatting, everyone is happy, they're just having a good time. There's no midnight in here, there's no nighttime in the story. I don't know why, this is so so invigorating, it's so relaxing at the same time, beautiful combination. It's also a relatively affordable scent. I got this for about 80 bucks for 100 ml. Really beautiful, super long lasting, surprisingly long lasting. Even those citrus notes really permeate the scent profile. And it's such a beautiful contrast with the incense. This is actually one of my favorite incense fragrances. I discovered this from a podcast that I listened to, two Italians talking about incense fragrances. And this was such an amazing discovery. Highly recommended, highly recommend the house of ETRO. It's such an underrated house. There's so much to discover, and I'll be definitely diving more into that house myself. The second fragrance that I want to showcase is a little bit of a weird one. This one here is by Etat Libre and it's Fat Electrician. This is actually a vetiver fragrance, a very strange one at that, because it combines the vetiver note, those bitter notes from the vetiver, with a creamy vanilla base. That's the dichotomy I was looking for. This is actually, again, very wearable in pretty much every situation because it offers this beautiful contrast between this bitterness and the sweetness. The sweetness in here really mellows out and mitigates the bitter, edgy vetiver note. Myself, I'm not a huge vetiver fan, and I was looking for something that would offer a little bit of a vetiver edginess while still making it palatable, while still making it wearable. This is such a fun, modern, unique take on vetiver in perfect Etat Libre d'Orange style. I really like the house. I like their tongue-in-cheek humor. I love their intelligent references. It's such an easy house to approach, but they offer so much depth. They're also incredibly well priced. You can easily find the 50 ml bottles of Etat Libre d'Orange at discounters for about 50 to 60 bucks. Super cool, a really cool house to get into niche, to really explore the more artistic side of fragrances out there. I really have to get my hands on more Etat Libre d'Orange fragrances, especially Sécrétion Magnifique. I know it sounds terrible, but I'm so curious. I'm so curious to see if it lives up to the hype and if it's as stinky as they say. Last but not least, my usual oddball. This one here is Zoologist Sloth. This fragrance really uniquely combines a fresh, bright opening with a musky animalic base. Beautiful dichotomy, definitely not for everyone. You need to be a little bit more courageous for this. It's super artistic, really, really unique smelling. This is a fragrance by the amazingly talented Thai perfumer, Prin Lomros. He's actually one of my favorite perfumers ever. He's so creative, so edgy, so fun. Everything that he makes smells so incredibly unique, and this fragrance is definitely no slouch. Again, it combines this beautiful fresh aspect that smells like eucalyptus, it smells like vegetation, it smells like mint. It has also a little bit of a boozy component, but very, very fresh. And it combines this with this very deep, skanky animalic component, which is slow moving like a molasses, like a sloth. The wear experience for this is just so unique. The freshness stays throughout the wear experience, and gradually as this kind of dissipates, you start getting this musky, furry, wet dog sort of smell. And again, I know it sounds amazing as I'm describing it, but it actually is super, super interesting. Most of the fragrances by Prin are, again, they're very, very edgy, they're very interactive, they're very not wearable, but they're very artistic. I love his take, style, and narration. I love his ability to combine notes that don't necessarily come across as compatible, but the resulting fragrances are super unique, very, very surprising, and they're incredibly fun to wear. I love this one, and before the old bottle design of Zoologist disappears completely, I'll do my best to track down a bottle of Rhinoceros, also from Prin. If you like stinky, edgy fragrances with a unique twist, you have to give Sloth a wear, because this is super, super cool. Highly, highly recommended. But back to Amouage Enclave for my final recommendation and overview. If it wasn't clear enough, I love this fragrance. It's such a uniquely special wear experience. It's the fragrance that started it all. It's the fragrance that had me start a YouTube channel. And for this alone, I'll always hold it next to my heart. As far as actual recommendations go, I'll refrain from gushing over the house of Amouage. As you may know, I'm a huge fanboy. I love their products. I basically pre-order everything. I just love their style and approach, even to this day. And if in the future they will change, if in the future they will be disappointing, who cares? I'll enjoy them until I can. As far as Enclave goes, this is a beautiful fragrance. It's super unique, incredibly wearable, very, very fun, very modern. I think it's very special because nothing else in my wardrobe smells like this. I love wearing it. It has such a beautiful, energetic sort of vibe, but at the same time, I find this very relaxing and meditative. The warm ambers, the powdery incense put me in such a calm, emotional state. I love it, and I love wearing this. What else can I say? If you're looking for a very fun, unique, modern, four-season, signature scent-worthy fragrance, and you like Amouage, and you like a Middle Eastern sort of take on the genre, this might be exactly the one for you. Is it blind buy safe? Not really. It's a little bit weird, it's a little bit different, but it's definitely sample worthy. If this all sounds interesting, get yourself a sample of Amouage Enclave, even just to experience the incredibly unique wear that this thing offers, this beautiful dichotomy between freshness and warmth. If you like this type of content, if you like my approach to video, feel free to subscribe. It's always massively appreciated and it helps the channel. If you want to interact with me, leave a comment, suggestion, opinion, or anything else down below. I always reply and I always keep the conversation open. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. Many more videos to come, many more reviews to come, many more upgrades to the channel to come. So thank you so much once again. See you in the next one, and cheers.